And can you
Excellent.
see me okay?
I see the going live countdown. I do not see you.
But you can hear me.
I can hear you great.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
I'm going to refresh my pages to see if it's streaming.
They're
Yes.
saying propagating right now underneath your LinkedIn.
Mm,
Huh. Well, luckily we gave them the. All right, I see the countdowns live on my profile, which is good. All right, so now let's go over to yours.
yes, it's working on my profile
Okay, and it
and
is
my
public.
personal page.
All right, great.
And I don't see it in the Legends group yet.
All right, we're at the countdown's at 250, so we're. I just want to be cognizant of it because it's automatically going to shift to the two of us once that um, is the case, and then we will be live.
Okay, cool.
Um, so far, LinkedIn's still saying that it's starting, but it doesn't have the ability to click on it. So maybe go over to your LinkedIn page and just see if you can navigate there.
Mhm. Looks
Um,
like YouTube is correct.
Great,
Exciting that it's all working.
great, great, great. Oh, well, blow me down because we are live now with the audio.
Awesome. So I don't see anything in LinkedIn yet. That's okay. We got YouTube and Facebook, and if we can figure out the LinkedIn,
Well,
be great.
it says it's working on it, that it's starting up. Hopefully, that well, hopefully it'll figure it out.
Yes. Either way, we're gonna have a good time.
Yes, sir. So we got a little bit of countdown happening.
That's right. 1 minute. I'm all warmed up. I just had an interview with Jennifer Hill on her Awake TV program.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and so she's doing programs with Heart Math and Bruce Lipton and Deepak Chopra, and she's going to make some introductions. So that'll be fun.
Neat.
Yeah, but I just went through malware and operating system upgrades and all that stuff, and she had a great metaphor that I'll share with you about a cavity. And so we are ready to rock and roll today. This is going
I'm
to be fun.
excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be fun. We're in the home stretches now, so we got 13, 11, 10, 9, 8,
I should have brought
7.
champagne. We need champagne.
Right?
Champagne.
Oh, that's funny. And we are live.
Yay.
Woohoo!
Hey, everybody. Welcome. So glad that you are with us. Joshua and I are super excited that we're live streaming around the world. Maybe, I don't know, but
Well, definitely
we are
around the internet.
around the internet. That's right. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and wherever else you may be watching us. So, welcome. Joshua and I are excited about our first live stream and connecting with you. So if you have questions at any time, I think the way that they do it is just to add a question or make a comment in the comment boxes. Is that correct, Joshua?
Yeah, depending on where they're watching, the thing that we have to and bear with us because we are going to have to bounce between different tabs depending on where you happen to be tuning in. So, like if you're watching on YouTube, then we'll monitor the comments on YouTube, and if you're watching on Facebook, Tim's profile or his public figure page or the group or whatever, we just have to go between some tabs here and monitor them so that we can see what's going on. But we will do our best to engage with you and answer your questions and get better as we go here.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump right in then, right? We want to be laser focused with our training today and the information that we share with you so that you get the most out of it. So today we're talking about why talented, passionate, and extraordinarily gifted people who have that desire to make the world a better place, or to be able to live life on your terms, or to be able to create that freedom and security and adventure that you desire. What causes these amazing entrepreneurs and business owners to get stuck, right? Or to accomplish a lot of the things that you might have had on your bucket list, but yet some of those bigger goals are still elusive. They're still, you haven't got there yet. And you're wondering, am I ever going to get there? You know, I'm older now and I can't put in 100 hours a week, you know, and am I ever really going to make this happen? Is it going to happen for me? And Joshua and I have been working on those, finding solutions to those kinds of questions and really going deep, really trying to figure out what is going to turn things around and give you the fastest results possible, give you the most amount of impact so that you can create the shifts that you need and make those big dreams come true. And you probably hear that a lot because everybody and their brother is an internet guru now. And so, but we've been working at this really hard for a long time. And you will find that if you stick around, that the information, the insights, and the strategies that we provide you are different from just about anything else that's out there. So, Joshua, we started talking about what you think. I mean, you've been working with, you know, like top level entrepreneurs, like, you know, you've been hanging out on Necker Island with Sir, you know, Richard Branson. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, most entrepreneurs think that you have won when you get to that level, right? And so when, you know, you have found that people get stuck, and you had told me one time that you had a math formula with X, Y, and Z. You want to share that formula for why you think that talented entrepreneurs often get stuck?
Well, I let me just back up and say that I think one of the valuable pieces, as it were, with when I was on Necker Island, I was miserable, and playing the game, I was this big shot, and I thought I had it made and everything. But really, in reality, I wasn't happy. Life wasn't what I wanted it to be. So, you know, a typical thing that I know you deal with a lot with your clients, but I think that oftentimes what we end up drilling down on and what we think is the problem isn't really the problem, but it makes logical sense that we're like based upon everything that we know. And you know, and what I can just say is, like, it took me 32 years to become a millionaire for the first time. And then once I made the money the first time, and I was always, you know, of the frame of mind, because everybody told me this, you know, the first million is the toughest. Once you do it once and you prove it to yourself, you can do it again and again, and no big whoop. Well, sure enough, like, I had to know that I could do it again and again, because over the next 10 years, I made and lost millions, not once, not twice, not three times, but four times in that 10-year period. And so I think a lot of times, like, my definition of success was not really what I thought it should be, because I wasn't satisfied. So I believe that that's a piece of it. But anybody that's ever seen me before is going to recognize this little metaphor that I use. But this when the problem is not the problem, is here's the deal. Like, we look at this rust and we say, well, let me just paint over the rust. Let me get some spray paint and get the fanciest spray paint and do it up. And what happens is that if you don't clean off the rust, well, what happens is that underneath that paint, it's not too long where you've given that rust a chance to bubble up to the surface and to, come back to the way it was, and worse, because the core issue is the rust, and not getting rid of the rust. Doesn't matter how much we paint it, how many different ways, and how good we are at painting it, and who we get to, teach us to paint. And I think that a lot of us as entrepreneurs, and a lot of us in professional success in general, is that we are going about these creative ways to paint over rust and to make it look really good. And for a minute, you paint over it, it's good. It looks great, at least to the surface, but underneath, nothing's changed. And in fact, generally speaking, when you paint over rust, you're giving it that space that it needs to actually fester and really eat away at the metal that's the base there. So, when you talk about the XYZ, I got to give credit where credit is due. I first heard this from Rich Schefren, and what he talked about was, and it was just some of his brilliance, just off the cuff. And I don't know whether he ever explained it like this again, but when he explained it this way, it resonated with my approach to life. And he said, you think the problem is X, so you're doing Y actions to solve the problem that you think is truly the problem. And it makes good sense that you're doing that. But really, the problem is Z, something completely different or a broader scope. And in fact, the Y actions that you're doing to cure what you think is the root cause problem that isn't, is actually making the Z, the real problem, worse. And so, like if we put it into the context of this metal and the rust, like we think we're solving it by painting it over, by taking, by investing in the best spray paint that there is in the world, and learning how to, apply it, and having different colors and different artistry on the surface of it. And in fact, what's happening is that we're actually making it worse, because we're protecting the environment where it can now bubble up. So it's right in alignment with your Obeos, your one belief away operating system, and the mental malware and those concepts. And until we really address some of those issues, whatever metaphor suits you, go with it. But until we actually treat the rust, until we actually treat the mental malware, until we actually get into the meat of the matter, so to speak, it doesn't matter what we're doing. So, let's put it in context of your clients and the people that you serve. What are some of the things that they're doing that make good sense, but that aren't really producing the results, or makes it look good or feel good for a second, but then, it pretty soon the rust is going to, eat away to the surface again.
So I love that metaphor with the rust and then painting over it. So let's go ahead and apply this like you said. So if we're talking to an entrepreneur, you and I are both entrepreneurs. Anybody that would be watching this is somebody who wants to make a bigger impact or wants to live life on their terms. We don't want to work for someone else or the status quo. We want to be able to have the best life we can have, right? And so if you are trying to create that next level of income, or achieve your goals, or trust people more, have a greater inner peace with whatever it is that you've already accomplished, so that you can actually just be happy instead of always feeling like you got to get the next thing, then we think, well, to get X, to have those goals, we have to do Y, which usually for entrepreneurs is find the latest sales funnel, or the new marketing techniques, or I got to be a Facebook ads expert, or I should start a better YouTube channel, or no, I need to write books. No, I got to have autoresponders. No, I need emails that have to go out, and no, I have to learn CEO. No, what you really need is a podcast. And we start buying more tech and creating more programs and getting overwhelmed and feeling like we don't have enough time to do what we really want to do. Then we become caught up in the social media craze. And now I have to be on LinkedIn and my 5 Facebook pages and YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah, and it's not enough to just do once a week or whatever. Now I got to post 18 times a day on all of these channels.
Yeah, it's madness. So after years and years, I've been in practice counseling people professionally for 26 years. And after thousands and thousands and thousands of sessions working with entrepreneurs, I found out that it's the rust. It's what you said, Joshua. It's the rust that's underneath that's causing more and more problems. Now, the challenge with entrepreneurs is 2 things. First, they don't know the rust is there, right? They think they're painting on metal because I've already done the work, or I already am confident, or I already will take risks. I'm already making bold moves,
Right,
so they think that the rust isn't there. The rust is. We don't recognize our own blind spots, which is why we call them blind spots. Okay. And you can't update or fix or heal what you don't realize is there. The second part of it is that people allow their egos to get in the way. I certainly have. And I'd be like, I already took care of the rust. I've done lots of work on myself. I've been to all the seminars. I've done all the classes. I've read all the books. I've memorized Think and Grow Rich. I meditate. I have vision boards. I've done affirmations. I have got rid of the rust, right? And turns out you didn't get rid of the rust that was the main source. A lot of the work that we do out there, a lot of the psychology and therapy stuff that's out there is like trying to cut the top off of a weed. We don't get to the root of it, and so it keeps growing back. Instead of actually resolving and healing some of that stuff, that rust that's deep inside of us, we figure out ways to distract from it, to keep busy, to channel that insecurity and anxiety into more achievement. And as long as I'm staying busy and I feel like I'm making progress and I have momentum, that's all I need. And that becomes like a badge of honor. I only have to sleep 4 hours a day, or I don't care about being happy or sad as long as I'm making progress. Well, your family might feel different about that. If you hear the term workaholic every day, right? And so, or you feel like you're guilty because you're not with your family because you got one more email you got to get out. And then when you're with your family, but you're not present with them because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to be doing this. And so it traps us. And what is our solution? Well, you know what? I probably just need a virtual assistant. And then, you know what? I probably need some more automation software. And then, and it just keeps going on and on. More layers of the paint that just keeps locking in the rust. And that rust just keeps, trying to solve why when it's really Z causes you to have more problems. It causes the Z to get worse because then I'm going to turn it back over to you, Joshua. But what happens is instead of recognizing that it's the rust that's getting us stuck, we start to think, I must be a horrible painter. What's wrong with me? Yeah. Why can't I get this to stay? I must not be doing something right, instead of realizing that we're painting on rust.
Well said. Well said. Well, first of all, Max Alicious, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And it's been a long time. So, and one of Tim's son's name is Maximus. So you're in good company, Max Alicious.
Yes, you are.
But so I just wanted to acknowledge Max. He's a bud that is watching on my profile at the same time. Anyway, like we're just it ends up becoming, like you said, we're getting to the point where we're blaming ourselves and we're playing the comparison game, right? We look at what's going on in the world, and let's just say that everything that you're seeing is legitimate in terms of it working for somebody else. But then you go and apply it, and it's supposed to be some cookie cutter, method or application that's supposed to be work the same for everybody, and it doesn't work for you the same way. And now you see everybody else supposedly doing wonderful things with the exact same things that you're struggling with. and all those podcasts and the YouTube and the different social medias and the ad accounts and the different ways of doing ads in the ad accounts and whether it's Facebook or YouTube or the GDN network or native platforms, whatever it might be, or offline, all of those things. And instead of actually diving deep on what it means for you and asking, number one, first and foremost, like, what is it that you want to do? Like, what would make you happy, fulfilled, and fully engaged for the rest of your life to be working on? And let's work on that first and foremost, because oftentimes we choose goals, I think, out of the like we let the outside world push on us and dictate to us what we should define success as. And if you stop and get real clear about what that means to you and make sure that you include like the lifestyle aspects of it, then I think that's really important. And so, I'm just trying to put this into some context for everybody, because I really don't know what your viewers are struggling with the most, but I do know that it's not that the programs necessarily that they've been installing in their operating system don't work. It might just be that you've got internal conflicts. For example, like with your malware is it's another way to approach the same thing that I did with the Rust analogy. But the malware ends up being like attacking the operating system, and instead of enhancing it, it's dividing it, right? And it's just, like any virus or anything that's under attack, it's taking up the space, but it's not taking it up with expansion. It's taking it up with more and more limitations. So
well, let me jump in and lay the foundation for that real quick, because that's right. But they might be like, what do you mean by malware? So your smartphone, right? Your smartphone is a computer, and it runs applications, right? These apps, and these little apps are programs that are supposed to make your life better, right? Or more entertaining or more impactful. And sometimes the apps are great, and sometimes they're a big giant waste of time. Your phone also has an operating system that runs underneath all the programs that allows the programs to work effectively. Unfortunately, there are also things called computer viruses, or what we call malware. I used to call it malware, but my 13-year-old keeps correcting me. So it's malware, okay? Like we're from Boston, okay? We got some malware here on our phone. And so I apologize to everybody on the East Coast. So with this malware, it goes in and it infects the program's abilities to run effectively. Right? So all of a sudden I download malware into my email, and now my email's not working, and it's creating chaos and havoc and right? Why can't I get it to work? Okay. So if it was malware, we wouldn't say what's wrong with me. We would say what's wrong with this computer. Well, human beings also have an operating system, and we also run mind apps. We call them beliefs and habits, right? And so our beliefs and our habits are being run automatically in our unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind also has an operating system. This operating system allows us to show up in the world in a way that is based on the beliefs that we have and the habits that have been developed. So unfortunately, we also download human malware, what Joshua and I call mental malware. And often this malware are in the form of limiting beliefs that we absorb about ourselves, others, and the world around us when we're little, right? We're not born with mental malware. We absorb it or download it into us based on the experiences that we have, and often based on the malware that our parents have growing up. And so when that malware gets into our system, no matter how talented you are, no matter what work you've done, no matter how terrific you are, which you probably are pretty amazing. Joshua and I attract pretty remarkable people into our world, but still the malware won't allow you to reach your full potential, or it's what's sabotaging you or what's keeping you stuck. So the symptoms of malware. Can I just
jump in for just a second, Tim?
Sure.
I don't mean to break your flow, but
okay.
the let's just bring it back to the context of what the XYZ, the rust, and inside of your metaphor. And
Yeah.
let's say, so if you're unaware that you've got this malware, that you've got these viruses bubbling under the skin, or under the surface in your mind, and because the problem is that it's unconscious, right? So
Right.
like if it's unconscious, by definition, you're not able to see it until you're trained on how to do that. So you're like, well, if I don't know, then it's not affecting me. Yes, it is, because what ends up happening is that you will enroll in one of those programs. You'll get a new SaaS app program that you sign up for. You'll go over to this person's training program. You'll take this coaching program. You'll do this podcast, and all of that makes good sense. But what you're doing is you're treating the symptoms that you're feeling as a result of the malware creating havoc in there. And instead of being able to have a clean space, whereas if you had like a clean space and there was no malware, there was no things running, those self-sabotage patterns, those severe big patterns, not just one or two Z limiting beliefs, but like some core stuff like you were talking about earlier, with that often gets ingrained into us very, very young. Like I discovered one for me that got ingrained when I was literally 60 days old. And it wasn't till like very late in life that I actually figured that out. But it was there, and it was unconsciously controlling me without me even having a clue that what was going on. And so from there, what ends up happening is that, well, I for me, like with that 32 years to become a millionaire the first time, and then the next 10 years, millions made and lost in between multiple times. Well, what was going on is that, well, what I need to do is take massive action, follow through, put your head down, not take no for an answer, just make shit happen. Just go. Sorry, I mean, I know you don't like me when I get a little bit in the moment.
I always like you. You go.
Like get out of my way. Like the ends justify the means and all of that, right? Because that worked for me. And I could never take a break because I was afraid that if I put the ball down for a second, that then all of a sudden, I'm never going to be able to get back up again, and it's going to be horrible, right?
Yeah, it's all going to crumble down if we get off the hamster wheel that we created.
Right. So what do? We install another program because it's not working as well as it used to. Right? It's not going the way that, like, we got some results. Like for me, like I got really good results the first time through it, but then all of a sudden the same stuff wasn't working anymore because I wasn't addressing the root issue. So I kept on for 10 years, installing more new programs to counteract the deficiencies that I felt in myself, that I felt were missing, but the premise was wrong. And until I started dealing with those core issues personally, I didn't find both fulfillment and meaningful momentum, meaningful impact and success that I knew was making a difference, that I was meant to do. Like I always knew that I was here to do something, and that my life was supposed to be more than I had let it become, even when I was making millions, because that wasn't what I was put here to do. It wasn't just about making millions. It was to make an impact, to make a difference, to make a contribution, and to have success, material success simultaneously. Sure, of course, but not either or, and not all one way or the other. So for me, that's how it kind of showed up. So I don't know if that's useful or not.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. As I'm listening to you, it reminds me of a story. So I remember this was many years ago, and I decided I was going to fly out to California and check out one of Brendan Bouchard's seminars. I had been through one of them before. I was going to go out again because I like Brandon, and he also, it's good networking, for other people. And I was with a trainer at the time, and the trainer said, well, you can go out there, but just know that you're not going to learn anything new. You're going out there because you're at some level seeking permission or motivation to just do what you already know. And I was like, whoa.
Let me add another word on top of that I think is so important, and I didn't realize till very recently myself: validation.
Yeah,
you were looking for validation that what you were following, what you really wanted to do was okay to do.
Yeah.
and was the right way to go about doing it. And so you wanted somebody to validate those ideas. And,
Yeah.
and at the core of it, what we're really looking for is we're looking for certainty.
Hmm.
And I mean, all learning comes down to abolishing uncertainty, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's what the purpose of true learning's for. So I think
Yeah.
validation is a big one. And as soon as you learn self-validation, to give yourself permission, boy,
And
that's huge.
self-certainty. And self-certainty, because you're
Yeah.
exactly right. I didn't know it, but I was looking for certainty because my biggest fear was always getting stuck and then not knowing what to do and then feeling like, see,
It
you
wouldn't
really aren't
work.
smart
Like,
enough to
what if
figure
it
it out.
doesn't work? Yeah.
Yeah, you really aren't as smart as you think you are, or all that law of attraction stuff is crap, and you've been buying into a lie this whole time. And so, I didn't really understand. I thought, no, I need new marketing tools. I need new sales strategies. I need new ways to know how to, when to post on Facebook. That's what I really needed, which is not what I needed. So,
How
but
do we
I went
game the
there.
algorithm so that we get
Right,
all the
right.
views? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is the secret sauce. So I flew out there and it was a good program. And I came back, and a few days after being back home, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my trainer was right. All the stuff I knew what I should have been doing all along. I was looking for that validation and that certainty. So as long as we keep looking outside of it, outside ourselves for it, we're going to never find it.
Did you experience when you're out there, maybe it wasn't at Brendan's, but maybe in certain situations? I know towards the end when because there was a point in time towards the end of that 10-year push where I was spending literally about seven figures attending masterminds and going through all of those things to feed myself, to improve myself. But really what it was is I was installing another program to make, but what finally got me to stop and take notice of it is like, I was like, I could probably facilitate this better than they can. And I can probably make a bigger impact than is being made right now. And so why am I not doing that? Why am I the one that's in the seat, being that professional student?
Yeah, a lot of us are in the audience probably because of our desire, our insecurity, our ego, and our confidence and wisdom. We're like, why aren't I on that stage? I could be doing a better job than that. And that's a great question. And the answer is because you're not allowing yourself to. And most people will be really angry when they hear that. They're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? I'm doing everything I can. I've
Yeah.
worked
The
on
world
myself.
is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But again, when you learn to go within, that's when you never go without. And if you're still feeling stuck in some way, it is because there is malware inside of your mind that still has not been removed. Right. And so someone was telling me, she gave me another metaphor today. Her name's Jen. And she said, it's kind of like having a root, you need a root canal. But instead of going in there and getting to the root and healing it, we just keep putting more shellac on the tooth, and then putting more and more and more shellac on that tooth actually locks in the abscess and creates more moisture and makes the root worse. And that's what you said before. We keep adding new programs to try to make ourselves feel confident and secure, but it's actually building on top of sand, and it just makes it feel worse.
Yeah, no, it's the exact same analogy as the rust, right? I mean, like that's brilliant. I love it. The thing that I think at the core that we should really break down, and the distinction here is when you're internally deciding versus externally, extrinsically, when the circumstances, when the world is pushing on you and you make decisions out of the outside pushing in versus the inside to the out. And I think it's very common when you want to know what the certainty, when you're not sure, when you want to guarantee, you're saying, well, I'm looking outside myself at what so-and-so says, or what this, this video made a lot of sense to me. I should be doing that. I need to be doing that. Well, instead of you getting right with you and deciding where to go from there. And I believe, and you're much better at being able to explain this from the clinical point of view, but I believe that's referred to as an internal locus of control versus an external locus of control.
Yes.
And anytime we are making decisions from an external locus of control,
Hmm.
that's when things are temporary. And what the malware does for us is it tricks us into believing, and that if you're getting pissed when you hear that like it's like you're stuck because of that. Well, then it's very. I would venture to say, and I don't know the exact circumstances, but if that annoys you, if that ticks you off, then it's probably because you've got malware that's clouding your judgment, that's not letting you see that it is an external thing, and you've actually identified that external thing as being what is the control of how you're allowed to feel, how you're allowed to think, where you're allowed to go. But you don't see it because it's unconscious, because it's malware, and it's now operating, it's now deeply ingrained in your mind's OS, your mind's operating system, or I love the obeos
Hmm.
operating system,
What
the
is obeos? What does that stand for?
one belief away OS, or operating system. But I like the way that it implies obey OS, because the OS is going to be what is the controlling factor once you get the malware cleared out, right? Once it's operating functionally, then it controls all else. If the malware is there, then it doesn't matter how many programs you install, how many security patches, how many upgrades that you give to your operating system. It doesn't matter, because it's still going to be held down, and you're still going to have the same, general results. You might get some temporary relief, but in short order, it's going to bounce back to the exact same, scenario that it once was.
So we use the metaphor then of the bucket with a hole in the bottom of it.
Right, right.
It doesn't matter how much water you pour in. It doesn't matter what cup you use to pour the water into the bucket. If you have a giant hose, you can have a fireman's hose, and you stuck it into that bucket and you unleash the water, and then you come up afterwards and your bucket's empty. And it's like, how is that even possible? Well, it's because there's a hole in the bucket. And if you don't patch the hole, it doesn't matter how much you put into it. And so it's very important. Now, I've been working with very high performing people and teams for years, decades. And every time someone says, well, it ain't a belief and it isn't because of this or that, it always is. You know what they say? I never would have thought it was that. Or I had no idea.
Right.
Or I can't believe something that happened to me in second grade. When my dad looked at me one time and said, you will never accomplish anything in your life, that somehow, when I'm 45 years old, would cause me to blow up my business, or would cause me to spend so much time smoking or drinking that, I'm not following through on the stuff that and calling my clients back, the way that I should be. And people just don't make that connection, because in our world, we don't talk about it. We try to push it down and forget about it. We just ignore it like it was something we went through. It's a bad dream. We want to get through it, but it shows up. And even with people who have accomplished a lot and have attained the material side, a lot of these people are my clients, and they're struggling to trust others. They're still struggling to be a collaborative leader, because they're afraid that they can't let people get too close. Or they're still having imposter syndrome, or feeling like a fraud. I got 500 people that I can be leading, and I'm holding back because I'm afraid I won't know enough, or I'm going to disappoint them and let them down, which is definitely malware. I'm not good enough to be able to add this value, and I don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah.
Right? That's malware. And
there's different layers of it. That's why I think the malware is such a great example, because I would venture to say that anybody that's done any kind of personal development work in their life, and I would venture to say probably all your clients, all your students, everybody that's probably watching us falls into that category. So what that means is that they've gotten really good. They've beefed up their operating system. They've done, every upgrade imaginable. They're installing new programs because they are constantly growing. They want to constantly improve. And yet they're still not where they know they want to be or should be. They're not, they're not into that space. But it's because those are the real issues that are at heart, but it becomes normal, right? Like my thinking or my frustration with people that believe in the law of attraction. Now, I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, so don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in, what we attract, what we put out there comes back to us. However, the part that I don't think people discuss enough is that ignoring something is not getting rid of the malware. Just because you ignore it doesn't mean, just because you got used to it, just because it's not in your consciousness every day, does not mean that it's not operating still, destroying things in the background, and those patterns, those self-sabotage patterns aren't still there, aren't still operating there. And it's just because you turn away from it doesn't mean that you're not, that it's not influencing your results. And anybody that has ever heard me is probably tired of this quote, but it's one of my favorite in life. And so I wanted to share it again. It's from Carl Jung. And he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. So anytime somebody wants to argue with me or anybody else that what's happened, I believe, is that they've gotten used to the things that they don't like in their life that are pushing in them from the outside, pushing in, but they have forgotten that they've gotten used to it. So it's become a part of their core operating system, even though it's been damaged by the malware. So it's now invisible to them and it's unconscious. They don't know that it's going on, but it's still influencing them. And they're now still want to call it fate, that why they're not able to get the results that they want to get or feel the way that they want to feel. A lot of super successful people hate what they're doing. And they hate their employees, they hate their customers because they're just not satisfied, but they're scared to shift and or to shift themselves or to shift the business or to to go out there because of what? Well, anytime you say because, now you're looking outside yourself to the circumstance, and that circumstance is now you're not seeing it until you stop and make that bit of unconsciousness. So I would just suggest that you use the word because as a little cue to say, hey, wait a minute, do I have something unconscious here? And the cool thing about this is as soon as you see it, as soon as you own up to it, you don't have to, it's not about blaming yourself. It's just about acknowledging it, just looking at it objectively, not having it mean anything about you, about the situation, or about just seeing that it's going on, that you're allowing an external circumstance to dictate how you're supposed to behave or how you're supposed to feel or think or whatever. And as soon as you see that, you might not be able to change it right away, like with your tools they can, but as soon as you make that unconscious conscious, that's by just watching it. It doesn't take work. You just got to look at it and say, oh, holy crap, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And stop judging it, and it goes. I mean, there's nothing to, there's nothing for that malware to latch onto anymore.
Yeah, sometimes just having the self-awareness that that's there can be a game changer. You're like, whoa, I had no idea that I had that running theme going in. That makes sense. Why I keep holding back in this situation, or why I keep losing my temper in that situation. It makes perfect sense now. So again, like we said, we can't, you can't fix what you're not aware of.
Right.
So, I remember if I think back over the last few years when I was trying to find my next new coach that I wanted to hire that was going to help me take my game to the next level, right? And I remember a couple of them I was just talking to, and I remember one person, she was very successful, and as we were talking, she said, well, I can definitely hear several self-limiting beliefs, coming out of you in our conversation. And I was like, what? I'm like, okay, well, that can't possibly be right, because I'm the guy that wrote 6 books on beliefs and, and stuff like that. And I allowed my ego to get in the way. I'm like, there's no way that it can be limiting beliefs. And I didn't hire her, which was a mistake, a big mistake, because she picked up the malware that I was not noticing. I remember this last book that I wrote with Joe Vitale called One Belief Away, that we use a lot of the strategies, Joshua and I, to help people to create those OS upgrades, to get rid of the malware and to upgrade your operating system. And I remember the moment that I wanted Joe to help me finish that book. It's because as we were talking, I think I was interviewing him on my podcast, and I said, Joe, And this was like, right when the pandemic started hitting, and I lost all my keynotes, and I was trying to figure out how to make my business go bigger online. And I was really struggling. And I said, Joe, do you think that some people are just luckier than others? And that was really, I'm unlucky. Why isn't it working out for me? And Joe's answer was amazing. He said, well, there's a lot of victimhood in that question. And I was like, oh, victimhood? I'm not being a victim. I own everything. I wrote 6 books on it. My ego got in the way again. And he said, there's a lot of victimhood in that question. But here's the answer. If there are lucky people out there in the world, why don't you just choose to be one of them?
That's great. I love that frame.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say hi to Gene Roberts. Sorry, Gene, I just saw you posting on my profile. Gene's a client of mine and Tellman's, and she's awesome. Thank you for tuning in. And she says, agreed, good info. I'm not really sure at what point, because I missed at the point that you actually were commenting there, because I wasn't on the right page. So I apologize, Gene. But if you want to like what you found eye-opening about what just that just triggered you to say, good, I agree, we'd love to hear it, because I think it might be useful for everybody.
Yeah, we definitely want to have interactions here, because Joshua and I talk about this all the time. So we're doing this to create a conversation. So if you have any questions, Max Alicious or Gene or anybody else that's with us today, that would be amazing.
Yeah, Max just said amazing. That was his exact word. What's amazing, good. Max? Tell me. Drill down, and more importantly, Max, is there something that we can bring to light for you?
Yeah. Every once in a while, if you see me look away, it's because I'm looking on my pages too, to see if there's any questions that people might have. But this is really the heart of the matter when it comes to struggling to achieve goals. Now, granted, sometimes we are missing, a tool, a strategy, some other process that would make life a little bit easier for us. And I totally agree with that. However, 99% of the time, that's really not what it is. It's some kind of belief that's getting in our way. We don't even recognize what it is, or we do know what it is, but we have no idea how to get rid of it, or we don't realize how much of an impact or influence it's having over us.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, when you shift it, when we get our shift together, it is amazing what people are able to accomplish. And there's no pressure, there's no stress, there's no overwhelm. All of a sudden, you're actually enjoying yourself. Yeah. You're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, and here's the thing that I think it's important to recognize. And I just found out recently, by the way, that the root of the word recognize is to know again. And know not in the intellectual sense, but know like the absolute certainty. Like when you know something, you know it. And there's no debate. There's no, so to recognize that this truth. And the truth is, my estimation is, at any rate, is that you probably have more than enough tools, more than enough resources. Not that you can't ever use improvement on those things, but you've done so much of that work that if you did a little bit of work in the malware department, that all of a sudden, all those tools that you've been investing in for your, my guess is your entire life, if you're anything like me, that all of a sudden you can direct that in new ways, and you get, multiplied results that are beyond all reason. It's always been kind of amazing to me personally. Like when I first got into the expert teaching game, it was after I actually had a bunch of success in the online world working behind the scenes. And then I produced a program on how I did that, 4 or 5 years after that. And during that time, I had built a book of business over 50 million in gross revenues. And then I developed the program out of that to show people that. And it always amazed me, because there was always people that it was their holy grail. Like it was exactly what they needed at the right time to have the success that they wanted. and the same information delivered in the same format, the way that it was delivered to the person that had the big breakthroughs, that those people didn't have the success with it for whatever reason. Well, it wasn't the materials, right? Because like where you are in that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The funny thing to me is that on the other side of that is, and maybe you all have experienced this yourself, is that when the opposite is true. Like, have you seen people that on fire with the most asinine ideas and following some program that has no hope of ever working? Like, it shouldn't work, and yet they find massive success with it because of where they're at. Like, for them, it was exactly what they needed, and boom, they decided to turn it on. So the power there is astronomical, and I just wish that like people would give themselves and each other a break, because stop beating up on yourself. Like, you've got more than enough. My guess is that you're already way smart enough than you need to be for the rest of your life to make the kind of impact that you want to make, to have the kind of material success and, spiritual success, fulfillment, to make the difference that you want to make. You already have all those tools, right? Not to say that they can't be enhanced and made better, but what if all you had to do was subtract the stuff that's pushing down on top of you, and assume that you've got this greatness? And so let's see what you're working with, because chances are you've been doing this your entire life. I don't think this is anybody that's tuning in that this is resonating with in any way, shape, or form is not this is not their first go round at working on themselves in some capacity or another. Max just wrote a bunch of comments. So let's see. You guys, this day, this moment is exactly what's going on in my head right now. I just pulled over on the highway so that I could type this. And then his next comment was, this conversation needs to be Zoom or a phone call. I don't type that well. That's funny. Well, be safe. Do not crash your car, Max, because I'm looking forward to catching up with you again, man.
Yes,
Max
stay
has got
safe
a
on the
phenomenal
road.
story.
Yes, stay safe
Maxalicious.
on the road. So that's awesome. And so, yeah, we'll do whatever we can in the format to be able to cause conversations, right? So instead of just typing in questions, we'll figure out some other format if we need to be able to actively go back and forth. But you're right. This is, I think, the most important stuff that entrepreneurs and business owners, sales professionals, I mean, you can be watching this and maybe you're not an entrepreneur. Maybe you work for a company. Maybe you're a realtor, or, working for a company in a leadership level, and you're just trying to figure out how to get out of your own way or maximize the productivity and output of others, which often isn't really about them. It's about how you're coaching them. And that comes back to our malware that we don't know is there. Right. But let me give you a couple of examples, because I think that Joshua did a really good job of breaking that down. So there was someone that I was working with, and she had all the tools and all the strategies, and she had built a wonderful program, and she was not letting it go live. She was not clicking the button to go live. And all she had to do was click the button and it would be live. And she fretted for months about it. So she had the program, it was really good, and she didn't have to do anything else except click a button and it's live. And she was not clicking that button because of her malware, right? What if it doesn't go well? What if nobody buys it? I'd rather spare myself the disappointment or humiliation or frustration of not putting it out there than to put it out there and nobody buys it, right? Because what does that mean then? Well, it doesn't mean anything except maybe you need to tweak your message or get more people to know that it's there. But what we think it means is that nobody loves me. Nobody likes my stuff because they don't like my baby that I put so much time, sweat, and blood energy into, that means they don't like me, right? And that's old malware. And so, I have a lot of people that have said, when you put your first version of a program out there, of course it's not going to work, because you got to figure out, how to make it work. The other analogy that I use is that goes with this is that a lot of times us entrepreneurs, because we want to stay busy and productive, it makes us feel secure. We go outside and we dig a 1-foot hole looking for oil, there's no oil. So we start a second 1 foot hole. There's no oil. So we another and another and another. And by the end of the day, our yard is full of 1 foot holes. We're dirty. We're exhausted, right? And we're frustrated because what's wrong with me and what's wrong with this? And it's really none of it is wrong with you. You just didn't drive deep enough into one of those holes to hit the oil. And so many times I've told this to Joshua, well, I'll launch a program and I put so much work into it. I get 3 people to sign up. I wanted 100 people to sign up. So I drop that program and I start creating a new program and a whole new funnel and a whole new email campaign instead of taking that program and driving deeper. And that's a very common problem.
Yeah, you're not alone. I do the same thing. It just shows up differently, right? I mean, like for me, the way that it shows up is that every single business model that I've ever built is scalable to hundreds of millions of dollars. But that's not what I'm gifted at. I'm gifted at going from an idea to the 3 to 5 million mark. That's my sweet spot, right? But I can't help but build a business that's able to sustain, that has the legs to go into the 9-figure range, right? And what often ends up happening is because I get bored with it, or I get like onto the next thing that I find, intriguing and inspiring from within for me, is
something shiny, right?
Yeah, or I mean, just like legitimate, like, okay, I proved to myself that I could do that. What's next? Mm-hmm. And then what ends up taking place usually is that some of those breakthroughs that I pioneered will get copied. Unfortunately, sometimes it's inferiorly copied, and then they leverage it to heights that I never could imagine taking it to, but it's still based on the foundation of what I put together, and they just took that to the next level. And sometimes it's just legitimate, like they're better at managing from, like something that's already going, like the 3 to 5 million mark, and scaling it to 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, etc.
Yeah. So whether you're trying to make, $50 million, or you're just trying to make, $50 to cover your bills, right? We want both. And so I get fed up a lot of times hearing these people talking about how much money they're making every single day and week and month and all that other stuff, which so much of it is hype, or they've done it one time, and now they're selling it as though this is the one secret sauce, which it isn't.
Can I tell you something about that always blows my mind too? Even if that's the gospel truth, even if it's absolutely the case and it's legit, so what? What does that say about you? What what does it mean to you? Just because I can do something, or Tim can do something, or anybody can do something, how do you put it to work in your life so that you can do it, so that you can see success with it? Like, I mean, if you need the legitimacy, I understand, you want some facts, you want some proof. Okay, great. But still, at the end of the day, none of that matters, even if it is the absolute truth, even if it's not one slightest bit exaggerated. So what? Big whoop.
Yeah, you're exactly right. When you go to trainings, I don't know if you've had the experience before of, you're so excited, you're so fired up, you're going to take over the world. And then you come home from that seminar. And of course, the people that you live with, they weren't at the seminar, so they don't have that kind of energy or experience. And so you have to tone it down. And within 2 days, you're right back to where you were before. And, right back into the same old habits and the same stresses and the same pressures. And it just, if you don't have someone to follow you home and help you apply it in your unique, specific situation, then it feels like it's lost on us. And then all that training, then we feel like, oh my gosh, I just spent more thousands of dollars, on learning how to get rich. And it seems like the only people that are getting rich are the ones who are selling this program on how to get rich.
There's a prime example of installing a new program that worked, but then there was some reason why you couldn't take it. Sorry, go ahead.
And no, you're right. And then the malware creates more malware, and like a cancer, it just keeps, spawning new problems and new symptoms.
Ever limiting. It's not ever too empowering. It's always ever limiting. So it's contracting on you.
It creates more self-doubt, and then it causes us to say, why even bother? And then if you ever found yourself saying, I just can't get the energy that I just can't get fired up again, I've lost my mojo. You didn't lose your mojo. It's the malware is causing you to think that you're going to do all this work and it ain't going to matter anyway. It's not, it's just going to end up being the same thing or another failed, program in your digital library that's collecting dust that nobody wants because, you're not good, and I've had that so many times, and so many people that I've coached and so many friends have been there as well. And it's challenging. And if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not a business owner, if you're not a leader or sales professional in that way, where you have to keep yourself motivated, people don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand the pressure. They mock you for being on your phone or your laptop all the time. They don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. And that causes even more pressure, because then it just makes us wonder why the hell we're doing all this, why we're killing ourselves, why we're putting ourselves out there, why we're accepting so much unbelievable uncertainty, and risk. Why are we putting ourselves through this? Maybe, my wife has told me, and it's killed me many times, why don't you just go get a real job? Right? And so
I've
this
heard the
is a real job.
thing.
Yes,
Right.
this is a real job. And, nobody was complaining when I was raking in those hundreds of dollars. So, but when you're or more, yeah, or more, right? But when you're not, all of a sudden it goes down. And this is another pattern. I know you've went through it, Joshua, is that it's fast or famine. No, feast or famine, right?
Feast, yep.
You're skyrocketing, everything is going right, and then all of a sudden nothing is going right. Then you get fired up and it's going right, and then nothing is going right.
Well, and that's a prime example of the malware, yeah.
Yeah, it evens. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's a prime example, because what's going on is that every time there's feast, well, you've forced you've overcome it with sheer willpower and force.
Yeah,
and
that's your talent.
By your drive, and you're installing a new program, and you're driven, and so you make something happen. And as soon as you have to, the problem with that is that you can't ever ease up, because then the second that you do, the malware never takes it's never takes a day off, right? Yeah. So it's always there, just waiting for it to to have the opportunity. So
yeah, I had so much more hair when I started this game. You're right, though. It's impressive, Max and Gene. It's impressive that you've been able to accomplish as much as you have, even with some of that malware in there. That's how talented, that's how amazing you really are. That's amazing. Imagine if the malware wasn't there. And I'm assuming that there's malware inside of you, because we all have it. I rarely find
the easy way to tell is if you're not getting the results that you want to get, then you can be sure that there's something limiting you, and it comes inside first.
And not just limiting you in your business. You might be making a ton of money, but your marriage is rocky, or you're not feeling really connected with your kids, or you're 50 pounds overweight, or you are stressed out all the time. It rears its ugly head in a lot of different ways, not just, with what's the number in our bank account.
Yeah. And if you're judging yourself, if that's how you've taught yourself that you're allowed to feel good based on a number, that number is never satisfying. Because ends up happening is that once you hit it, you're afraid of losing it, or then it's not enough, because like nothing's changed. The feeling hasn't changed in you. Whatever those insecurities are, whatever that imposter syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the fad name of the day is, for the syndrome, it's still there, right? So then you increase your number, and then that's what happened to me. Well, when I become a millionaire, then I'll prove myself that I can do it. Well, then when I build a $100 million business, or when I do this, or when I do that, but it never quenches the emptiness. It never fulfills that space, and so it has to leak out into other areas of your life. But the good news is that as soon as you really genuinely work into one specific area, then it affects all the other areas in a positive direction, a positive upward spiral. I remember one of the programs that I ran back now, 7-8 years ago now. It was for prosperity. It was for wealth creation. It was for success wise of that nature. But one of the participants, one of my clients in there, dealt with the suicide of his mother, and
Mm-hmm.
that was holding him back. And we didn't know it, and he didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, all of a sudden, like fell back in love with his wife again, and like he couldn't believe it, and he didn't do anything different. He was just showing up differently because it affects all other areas of your life. And I don't know who said this first originally, but I love this idea or this thought is that how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so as good as it gets even better. And when it's limiting you, then that can limit you in all areas of your life too.
Yeah.
Oh, Max
Well,
just said something else. Let me see here. Can you guys really hear me that loudly? Sweet free therapy session. Love you and thanks. Like, so I guess we're like inside his mind right now. Well, the
oh,
thing
that's
is,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, Max, that you're not alone. Like, I mean, we
No,
all
no.
go through this, and I think that's a
Oh,
big
yeah.
piece of the puzzle is that we think that it's just us. We think that it's unique to us. What's
Yeah.
unique to us is the way that it's showing up. What's unique to us is the way that we have chosen to define this in our life. What's unique to us is how we've made up a story and decided to believe that it's true about what it means to us and says about us. That's completely unique. But the scenario that it's going on is all of us, because you'd be already living the life that you want to live in the capacity and the fulfillment that you were if you didn't have this going on some level. So the trick is, how do you recognize it? How do you allow it in? And instead of having it mean something about you personally, when you're looking at these stories, instead of getting defensive, instead of getting pissed off, just say, huh, isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And acknowledge it and just allow it to be what it is, and look at it. And if you will look at it without having it mean a story, without you having to play a made up story that you've been playing in your head again and again and again, that you believe is true. The reason why it's true for you is that you believed it again and again and again until you actually believed it to be true. And so it is true for you, right? So, and at that point it becomes unconscious. So the point is, and Max just wrote to hide the tears. Yeah. I mean, like, or you could choose to believe that the tears don't mean anything. Like, you could make up a new story. And the other thing is that as soon as
You could say that the tears are the ice that's melting around the heart, right? Allowing you to be empowered by that, right?
yeah,
So yeah, because it'll matter, right? But it's the meaning that you give to it.
yeah, I mean, like for me, I used to be, well, I was always very connected empathetically and emotionally to my feelings, to the feelings of other people. So I could cry at a drop of a hat. Well,
Mhm.
part of my, get it done was to bring out my New York City street kid, I'll cut you mentality to get through the day, right? To push through it. And I was proud of the fact that I didn't let that weakness show until I realized, holy shit, that's my vulnerability is my superpower. My ability to connect with people and let them see my true space. And as soon as I allowed that to be okay, life changed for me and for the way that I could make an impact with other people. And it's just been phenomenal ever since. So the point that I would like to, I know we need to wrap up pretty soon here, but that I hope everybody will like take to heart and digest is that all beliefs are limited. A belief is just a thought that you think again and again and again until you make it so, until you believe that it's true. So you have empowering beliefs that serve you, and you have self-sabotage type beliefs that limit you, that, malware type beliefs. But a belief at the end of the day is nothing more than a story that you've made up and told yourself that you now have believed. But it's happened in a way that you're not aware of it, that your unconscious mind has adopted that to be true. But a belief is nothing more than a thought that you've thought again and again and again. And it's not a question of whether that's bad or evil, because those bad or evil or right or wrong are all labels that you've put on it yourself. Those are all part of how you've decided what that says about you personally. But if you're not taking it personally, where is it? Does it even exist? If you truly don't take it personally and you look at it objectively, does any of it exist? So are you then free? I'm not saying that you need to give up the empowering stuff. I'm just saying, like, if you are in the moment able to see the truth for what it is at the bare level, at the bare metal, like got rid of the rust and you got down to the bare metal, and you can see the truth for what it is, and you decide that you can make up any story around it that you want to, well, then why not make up an empowering one? Even if it's even more empowering than the one that used to serve you, it can serve you even better.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I love it. So Sandy's with us too. Sandy's in the house. Hey, Sandy. Woo! And so she was relating and leaving comments that, yep, she gets it. She's had experiences like that, because this is very relatable, because this is what we all go through. It's just a lot of people don't talk about it. But we're going to talk about all about it. Right. And so this is like the view for entrepreneurs.
Ooh,
and
Sandra, do you want to read Sandra's comment here? Because she got
what Sandy asked was, how do you fix it? That was one of the main comments of, how do you fix this? So I'm going to recap what Joshua said, and then we're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger, because we've been going for almost an hour and 10 minutes now, and we're going to come back on Monday. And we're going to have some tips and solutions for how to do that. We didn't mean to do that on purpose. It's just, we want to make sure that...
Well, we're just now getting to the good stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the interaction for me is the good stuff. It's not
That's exactly right. Yeah. The fact that you're asking questions and that you're letting us know you're with us, that's why we're here. So thank you for that. Joshua said the first way to know how to get rid of it is just to find it, right? To recognize it and realize that it's an opinion. Beliefs are just opinions. They're not facts. In 1903, in the New York Times, there was an article, and it said that there will never be a man-carrying airplane. Oh, well, maybe there will be, with 1,000 engineers working 10 million years, they'll create a man-carrying airplane. 10 days later, in the Ohio Herald, it said, Wilbur and Orville Wright fly the first man-made airplane, right? And 10 days later, the impossible became possible. So we tell ourselves all kinds of things that we think are facts that are really just opinions. And so you want to make... Would it be
all right with you, Tim, if I actually read Sandra's question and comment? Because she articulated it so powerfully, so well. And I believe probably there's some other people that are thinking the same thing or are feeling very close to the same thing. So I would be valuable to share
that. Yeah, go
that.
ahead. I might not have seen her latest comment, so...
So she said, I agree totally with what you are saying. And I know that one thing that gets me to give up sometimes is the constant barrage of emails offering to fix me, and fix in all caps. And coaches reaching out by reinforcing thoughts of not being good enough. Oh, yes. And,
and they all want to charge you $5,000 and they don't even know who you are yet.
Right. That I get so sick of them, she continues, that I get so sick of them and say to myself, I do not want to become one of those. Oh man, there's so much here, so much good stuff. Like Tim, go to town on this one.
Oh my gosh, Sandy, that's brilliant. I don't know where you're seeing the comment, but I'm not seeing it in my thread, but that's brilliant. And you are so right on with that. It just gets force-fed, especially with the pandemic. Everybody went online. Everybody's doing Zoom calls. Everybody is now, suddenly the coach who has the answer. And Joshua and I are not trying to say that we have all the answers. We just noticed that everybody's selling the same stuff, just with a different package and a different graphic, but it's the same stuff. And we realized that, wait a second, it's not the paint and the paintbrushes and the power sprayers. That's not really what it is. And that's what everybody's selling, is the paint and the sprayers. It's like, wait a second. No, it's the rust that's in there. Nobody's really addressing that. And Sandy, you're a talented coach, and you know that with your clients, what gets them stuck is their beliefs and what's in their head. And so that's how it is for all of us. And so, yeah, it can be very off-putting to constantly have people try to sell you a bunch of stuff or sell you a very expensive program. I talked about how I waited 2 months for this guy who had just a limited number, you know, the old scarcity technique, a limited number of coaching spots available. I'm only going to take 10 of the best, right? And then, so I waited 2 months to talk to this person, and this person said hello, and I said hello, and then he asked me 2 questions, right? Well, first he launched into how he was awesome and what he had accomplished and what he had done and how much money he had made and how great he was. And I'm like, that's fine, because, you know, cool, he believes in himself, right? I want to figure out what his secret sauce is. And then he says, I got 2 questions for you. You know, are you someone who wants to make a big difference in this world? And I'm like, yes. And he said, are you a tire kicker? And I said, what do you mean? He says, are you the kind of person that has to go talk to your spouse or think things over, or, you know, wait and pause before you make a decision? Or are you someone who takes action? And I'm like, well, I take action. Yeah, I take action. Right. I do this. And he said, good. He said, the program's $10,000. You know, what credit card do you want to use? And I'm like, I haven't said one word to you about any of my situation.
You don't even know who I am or what my, yeah.
He didn't ask me anything about me. He just went right into a sales pitch and right into my credit card numbers. And that is so common that it turns us off. Because if I would have spent the money, which I have before, I've spent more than that on coaching programs. And Joshua, way more than that, right, on coaching programs. And yet, when you go through that and then you don't get the results that you are hoping for, it makes us gun shy. We're so afraid, or we spend money on Facebook ads and we're not consistent and we don't know how to do follow-ups, or we're paying someone $500 a month to do Facebook ads and it's not producing anything. It causes us to get gun shy, and then we're so afraid of getting burned. We're so afraid of getting taken advantage of or getting ripped off that, you know, because then we're not mad at them, we're mad at us for falling for it, right? It's our malware that makes us feel like it's us.
Yeah. And I don't want to, this isn't shit on gurus, live streams. I really want to, like that is definitely going on. And the thing that this was so prevalent that right before I shut down all my operations in 2008 into 2009, I created a website called Don't Shoot the Guru Yet. And it was all about, like, how do you take and sift and sort and make sense of it? So the point that I think is really important to that we can all get lost in is that if you make it about them screwing you or behaving in a certain way that you can't stand, then it's outside of yourself. It's external. And you are allowing that to influence who you say your stories are about you. And you're choosing to get pissed off, and regardless of whether it's true or not, because it probably is 100% accurate. But how does that show up for you? And it doesn't mean that everything in the right context isn't the right thing for the right people. Now, I'm not talking about stuff that, you know, has no hope of ever working on God's green earth. Like I'm talking about like legitimate things that'll work. Well, it doesn't work for everybody all the time in every situation unless you know how to, you know, mold it to your needs, to what makes sense for you. So, you know, my advice is that I put filters in place. And when I go through my emails and I see all that stuff, because I'm right there with you, man, Sandra, I am the same way. And I never met a deal that I wasn't excited about or that I didn't get, pumped up and that I didn't want to enroll in. That's one of the reasons why I purchased all the personal development stuff, because that's who I am. Like, you got to keep me off of AppSumo and off of GoDaddy, because I will spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, because I'm excited about all those things. So I get it. And what I did is I just put a filter in place, and I decided that, like, here's my criteria for whether I subscribe to anything. And like, you probably are doing it to a degree right now. Like, in your emails, you sort your emails by a hierarchy. Some of them you look at and you say, click, 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 click. How many of them can I click and delete immediately? Like, I can't get off the list yet because I purchased something from them, and if I unsubscribe, then I'm going to lose access to what I already purchased. So I got to stay on their list. But my job, as soon as I get my emails downloaded, is to click through them and delete them. Well, great. That saves me a headache, because I now know that there's nothing that I want from them in those current emails. The only reason I'm there, that's, one level of filter. Then the other stuff is, like, when somebody rubs me the wrong way and I get that oh yuck feeling, unsubscribe. Done. I'm not missing out on anything. Because guess what? I can always resubscribe later. I can always, find something that resonates in my heart. And then there's always those, like, 3 or 4 people. And it really is people in my email inbox that I stop and it stays in my inbox and that gets starred. And I don't ever move them to a file until I actually read them and consume them and digest them, because they've built up so much equity with me and they resonate with what I'm looking to create in the world. And like Seth Godin is one of them. He goes in that pile. James Cleary, or Clear from Atomic Habits, he goes in that pile. Like, anytime he sends me his email on Thursdays, it gets read, it gets digested. Laura Belgrade. Oh man, if you don't know who Laura is, I highly recommend going and subscribing to her email list. She has a website called talkingshrimp.com. She's phenomenal, if for no other reason, because it's enjoyable and it's entertaining. And like, she may not be your cup of tea all the time, but she's genuinely who she is, transparently, authentically her. And so those are just examples. Now, whether that resonates for you, I don't know. But if you set up some filters and then give yourself permission to say, yeah, that's garbage, or for me right now, that doesn't fit. Boom, done. Now I'm free. Like, I got the control inside of me to make the decisions by who I let inside of my mental OS system, and to inspire me that feels good right now. And if somebody shifts and they go from one to the other, or one to the other and then back again, then I shift with them. And there was a time where I totally unsubscribed from all of Seth's stuff because it was distracting me in a way that wasn't serving me. Well, but now it really resonates with me, so I'm back on his list, and I digest everything. It's meaningful to me when I get an email from him. So anyway, that might be some help.
Yeah, it helps.
Oh, and Sandra says, yes, I do that. But I do find that nagging feeling that, why should I try to continue to grow when it seems everyone else is doing it? Well, because you're not everybody else. You want to grow. You want to do something in a different way. You want to make an impact in a different way. So, of course, you don't want to do that. But does that become a reason why you don't get to live the life that you deserve, that you want? Only if you say so. And I would just, like, my advice would be to let yourself be the definition. Let yourself be the control at the helm, so to speak, the captain of your destiny, and where you get to say what resonates for you. And if you start looking for those people that do resonate with you, like I see that you just put in that that you open Tim's emails. Awesome. But what you'll find is that as you start to resonate with, and you get real clear about what's right for you, you'll find lots of people like that you couldn't see before because you were so dialed into looking for those people that were pissing you off, just being real blunt, that you don't have any mental capacity to see anything else. And now all of a sudden you can see, yeah, I agree. Sandra just wrote, but I do not want to play the social media game and try to keep up with it all. Great.
No.
Not saying
Yeah,
you have to.
Yeah.
That was Seth doesn't relief. Do one. Tell him the story about what Seth told you.
Yeah, I was talking to Seth because I had him on my podcast, and so I was able to ask him some questions, and I was talking about how it was exhausting trying to keep up with it all, and he said, Tim, you don't have to do that. He says, I don't use any social media. I don't post on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. I don't do things on LinkedIn. And he says, and I'm doing all right. And
how all
and
right?
I was like,
here's the thing. Yeah. I just want to point this out. If you start typing into any browser window his first name, the first thing that how that auto fills in on Google, like makes a suggestion, his name pops up as the suggestion, SETH, and so that's how well known he is because of doing it his way, making a contribution his way.
Yeah, he said he learned to be contrary. So what everybody else is doing, he just does the opposite. And that's what makes him stand out. So you don't have to do all the social media. You follow me on Facebook and all that stuff. I'm not even posting on there anymore. I got tired of it, and it wasn't creating the impact, and it was keeping me from what I wanted to do. So the other point I want to circle back with real quick was, I think you had wrote in the comment that, why should I do this when everybody else is doing it? Well, because there's going to be people out there that are really only going to be able to connect to the way that you help them. They're really only going to connect to the stories you share, the metaphors that you have, the way that you care about them and their life. I remember a long time ago, I was thinking, why in the world should I bother creating personal development programs? Because Tony Robbins did it already. And he was the man, and he did it the best, and why bother, right? And until one day someone said, I hate Tony Robbins. And it was the first time I ever heard that. And I'm like, what? Because I love Tony. And they were like, yeah, I can't stand him, his energy and the way he's doing that. And I realized that there was a whole bunch of people in the world that didn't like him. And then I realized there's many more people in the world that have never heard of him before, right? We think everybody knows him. Most of the people in the world have no idea who that guy is. And so, us coaches and entrepreneurs and leaders, there's very few of us compared to the 8 billion people on the planet. So no matter how many people are doing maybe the exact same thing that you are doing, there's still so many people that will never be served, that will never be cared for, that will never be empowered unless you show up. Now, that's not on you to do it, but you can use that for inspiration if you choose to.
Absolutely. Well said, Tim. And likewise, you can also use it as an excuse to be stuck and be limited and be pissed off. I mean, whatever you decide to make up the story around it is going to be true for you. So all I would suggest is that why not make up an empowering story that's going to serve you and bring you closer to where you want to go, where you say you want to go.
Well, here's a quick tip to know if you've got your malware talking for you or if you have your truth talking for you. Say whatever you say, and then notice, does it make you feel lighter or heavier inside? If it makes you feel heavier because you're angry and ticked and frustrated or resentful, if it makes you feel heavier, that's your malware talking. If you feel lighter and more free and more at ease, then all of a sudden that's your truth talking. So if you think, I'm not going to do social media and I'm not going to write these programs because it's already done and I'm going to go do something else, and you feel light inside from that, then maybe that's where you need to go and you do something else that's fulfilling for you. But I know you. So if you would say, well, I'm not going to do the coaching and do that other stuff, something will not be settled inside of you because you do want to add value and your programs are valuable. And so, you getting out into the world is going to be what gives you that lighter feeling inside. Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. So awesome contributions. This is exactly what we wanted. We've been rolling about an hour and a half, and this is exactly what we were hoping for. Brilliant people to show up so that we could have a conversation. And thank you for the questions. We're going to keep looking for ways so that we can have it so that you don't have to be typing, especially if you're driving. But I mean, you shouldn't be doing a Zoom call if you're driving anyway. But we're going to be back on. Yeah, we're going to be back on Monday and with some more ideas, some more tips, another strategy for how to get rid of malware. And we want to just give you all the tools and strategies that we have. And then if you need help down the road, you can join and enroll in one of our programs that we're doing so that we can get in there and help you get rid of the malware and then personally apply what you really want to your life. Between my experience and Joshua's experience, we're a very powerful team. And we can help you with, help you to really connect the dots, and that'll be awesome. But our goal is to give you as much free information as possible because that's how we roll. We don't get like, we don't like to say,
my goal is not to make them any smarter. My goal is not to give you lots of free information. My goal is to help you, empower you to make a change, to shift, to see the transformation in your life that you want to see. And oftentimes it isn't anything to do with the information because, like I said, you're already smart enough.
Yes.
But are we on Monday? Are we at 2:00 Eastern Standard again?
Yeah. Yep. We're going to show up consistent, same time, same bat channel, so that you know where we are. We want to be your favorite show, and you're going to be ours.
Just a little hint: the more that we get, you see how good this got in the last like 45 minutes because there was interaction, because there was like real life stuff going on, and we were able to be there with you guys. So the more that you can be here with us and encourage other people to engage with us, the better it's going to be for all of us, because it's going to draw questions out, it's going to draw answers out that are going to be useful to both all of us. I mean, myself and Tim included. So I really can't wait for that, because that'll be fun.
Yeah, the power of a group. It's so much more effective than just being doing individual sessions. Having a group dynamic is extraordinarily powerful. I mean, Joshua or I could have been doing this on our own, but we teamed up because there's just more power in it. You put our brains together, and then we put our brains together with Max and Gene and Sandy and everybody else that will attract to this. Wow,
it's a new body of work that new clarity. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got so excited I hit my microphone.
Yay! Outstanding. All right. So, any closing thought here, Joshua?
My anniversary is tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. My wife Kathy and I tomorrow makes 22 years that we've been married.
22 years. That's
wedded
amazing.
Bliss.
Yay! Good.
We still kind of like each other, which is cool.
That is very cool. Yeah. So, talking about relationship malware, that's a whole other topic.
But it's all interconnected, man. Like it really is. You can't help but influence all of it, by working on one aspect. It's a spider web,
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, thank you everybody for being with us today. It was awesome having you, and we look forward to, if you can come back on Monday, that'll be awesome. If you can share it with friends who are like you. Right?
Yeah, pass the link around, because this
only to people that are like you. Don't let it get around to anybody else.
Well, I mean, people will find it if they like it. I mean, like, who you would want to share this with, because they would appreciate it. Don't try to force it on somebody that ain't buying it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good last bit of wisdom. We're not trying to fish the whole ocean. We really want to hang out with people who are like us, that lead by value, who want to make a difference, who are excited about helping each other, and who are wanting to grow at the same time that we're teaching, right? As opposed to thinking that we know it all, because we don't. I mean, Joshua might, but I don't.
Not by a long shot.
Yeah, so anyway, so we're super excited that you were with us today. Thank you, Joshua, for being here today.
Jim. Thanks for including me in this. This is awesome.
It is awesome, and everybody have a wonderful weekend, and then we'll see you back Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Awesome.
Peace.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace. Take care.